Okay, it's time to commit. 2024 is the year for prioritizing yourself. Begin your new smile journey with Byte, and you could start seeing results in just 2 to 3 weeks. Just order your at-home impression kit today for only $14.95 at Byte.com. Byte Clear aligners are doctor-directed and delivered to your door. Treatment costs thousands less than braces. Plus, they offer financing options, accept eligible insurance, and you can pay with your HSA FSA. Get 80% off your impression kit when you use code WONDERY at Byte.com. That's BYTE.com. Start your confidence journey today with Byte.
Acast powers the world's best podcasts. Here's a show that we recommend.
What is The Briefing Room? It's a behind-the-scenes look at how the criminal justice system works and the lives of the people within that system.
If you love true crime, well, these are the real people who do the job every day of making sure justice is served.
Hi, I'm Detective Dave.
I'm Detective Dan. Together, we have decades of experience in local law enforcement, a profession that we think is often misunderstood.
So we're going to explore how to do it right, and we won't shy away from when it's done wrong. These are stories you'll hear nowhere else. Unique, frank, and unvarnished.
From the team that brought you Small Town Dicks, this is The Briefing Room. Episode 1 drops on August 30th.
We'll meet you in the briefing room.
Acast helps creators launch, grow, and monetize their podcasts everywhere. Acast.com.
Welcome back to Little Cuts, our weekly mini-sode where we dig into the things that we've been watching recently. I'm Terry.
And I am Mary Beth. And this week, we're talking about a lot. We're talking a pair of slashers, a bizarre Christmas fable, Irish haunted houses, a phone, a journey through hell, and Eugene Levy with an afro? Yeah.
Yes, and hopefully, maybe you're going to see this as a video recording as well, potentially. So, yeah, we'll see.
Hi, everybody.
We're testing.
Weird. Liquid Death,
I know.
sponsor our video content.
Yes, please. I love me some Liquid Death. Ignore this Jimmy John's container. It's actually Liquid Death.
Well, yeah, everyone let us know what you think of video content and if you want more of it, because we're playing around with it, because why not?
Yeah, why not? There's functionality here, hopefully, so we'll see how it goes. And if there no video materializes, pay no attention to the man behind the curtain. This did not happen.
Yeah, this is all fake. That aside, really quick, I want to say I hope everyone's taking care of themselves after the horrendous things that are going on in the States with Roe v. Wade.
Yeah.
Please donate if you can to abortion funds, specifically in the South, to help those clinics and places to kind of give support to those that are no longer able to get access to abortion. Please just do your research, do some trainings if you can. I know a lot of places are full now because of what happened, but just research your local Planned Parenthood, abortion clinics that might need your help with volunteering or just donations. Yeah, please and thank you. It's a rough time right now, and this is only probably hopefully it's not, but it probably is tip of the iceberg for a lot of other shitty things to come. So I hope everyone's taking care of themselves. Just wanted to address that off the bat. Just because, That aside, a nice distraction this weekend from all the bullshit was Chattanooga Film Festival.
Yes, it sure was.
That was very nice to have a bunch of movies to watch and try not to think about the state of the world. But, so I know we're going to talk about some of this stuff, but what is this pair of slashers that we want to talk about?
Okay, so one of the cool thing sometimes about Chat is that they do program things that are just a little bit off center, I would say. And I guess technically 3 picks that I'm bringing are all a little on the weird side. And the pair of slashers is a pair of movies called The Third Saturday in October, parts 5 and 1. And it's important, I think, that you watch them in that order.
Yes.
Of part 5 and part 1. So the idea behind this is that there's sort of like this long lost slasher franchise that has been unearthed, is kind of like the idea behind it. But there's only the 5th one and the first one. And it harkens back to a time, I don't know if you had this at all, Mary Beth, in the 90s. You might have, because we still had like VHS stores and whatnot. But like in the 80s, I remember watching Nightmare on Elm Street and the Friday the 13th movies out of order, because it's whatever you could get your hands on, and sometimes you couldn't get them in order as they are presented now, like with typical any release. Pretty much you could find any of them.
I remember watching the Halloween movies like that, when there's like the AMC marathon. Like I saw a lot of them out of order. I had seen the first one, but I saw like 4, I don't know, like parts of them too. It was always like bits and pieces. It was mostly Halloween was the one that I had that experience with. But yeah, I totally like know that feeling of like, okay, it's on TV, let's just watch it, and being like, I don't know what the fuck is happening, but you don't really need to know.
And that's the way it was for me too with Nightmare on Elm Street. Like I saw the first one, like I had the 4th one on beta, and so I would watch that one over and over and over again. And I know, and I didn't even realize that it was like, you know, a direct sequel of sorts to like the 3rd one, and I wouldn't know that until later. So like the idea behind the Third Saturday in October part 5 is the same way, that like you watch this one, you don't really understand the context of this killer that's wearing this cheapo mask that is going around and killing people, and it's set in like early 90s, I think 92, 94, somewhere around that time frame. Yeah. And when I was watching this, I kept thinking, yep, this is exactly the kind of movie you would expect Vinegar Syndrome to put out, of a movie that you'd never heard of before. Mm-hmm. It's about the same kind of quality as a lot of Vinegar Syndrome movies, and I mean that both is like in a loving way, but also is in some ways kind of painful in parts.
Your mileage may vary.
Your mileage may vary with this one. I found the characters to be completely insufferable, to the point that one of the main characters is using the R slur. That was on the negative. But it definitely like evokes that time period. It
does. And I think it's slow, which I think also, but I also feel like a lot, which I actually, you know, it was slow, but it also reminded me of a lot of those slashers where like there is like these slow beats, so it hits those beats in a really interesting way, in terms of like not a lot happens in the middle, and there's like some kills. I think it could have gone harder with the kills, though. I will say I think that there are some good ones, but I feel like they could have been a little bit more. Like someone's face is completely seared with a piece of hot pizza, and like I was obsessed with that. Like that's so
I love that.
Cool. There could have been more stuff like that, but I was very impressed with the vibe and like how they captured this vibe. There's a little girl and her babysitter, and the little girl is the best. There's a part at the beginning and the opening, like the credit sequence, where they're like in the car and they're jamming out, and the girl's wearing like sunglasses, and the little girl's wearing sunglasses, and it's really cool. I wish it was more of that energy the whole time.
Yeah,
we talked about this, where it's like they have something there, but I think part of what hurts it is it tries so hard to be like that I think it loses sight of how to be a little bit more unique, not just the concept, but like the performances wise. Like we didn't need an R slur. Like, you know, I get it, you're 1994, but like there's no point, you know, like things like that where I'm like, look, we don't have to be edgy. Like we can homage the 90s and not like play into those.
I also think it could have used like 20 minutes edited. Like I think both of these movies could have been edited down just a bit more, and it would have been a little bit more breezy, to be perfectly honest. But
I agree.
But I think that they work really good in tandem, and I actually liked part 1, the sequel of sorts that's set in like the 70s. I found that one more interesting. I thought the characters were a little bit more developed, and that one kind of pulls from like Halloween in a lot of ways, and like some of the 70s like exploitation type vibes that I was really digging.
Yeah, the aesthetic was really cool. Like they really like push that aesthetic. The group of stoners were so annoying sometimes, like meowing at each other.
Meow, meow, meow. Like, I was watching this with my roommate, and we were just like, what is even happening right now? And then we spent the rest of the night just meowing at each other.
There's a girl who just dances the whole time in pajamas. Obsessed with her. Obsessed with her. Yeah, it's interesting, and it's a black serial killer, which is so fascinating. We never, like, you know, there's Candyman and then bitch ass, but there isn't a lot of black, like, slasher villains. And one of the main characters in the first one is a black man. So it was kind of cool to see a little bit more representation on that front, like in terms of using black characters as villains. And like, I'm curious, like, you know, I'm a white person saying this, I'm curious like what other, like what you know, black audiences think about that in terms of having, because I think the director is white, so I'm always curious like what that looks like. But at the same time, I think it was interesting to like finally have a killer who isn't just like a giant angry white man. It's like a little different. And the posters are bomb. The posters are really cool.
Oh, the posters are so cool.
These movies are probably going to come out soon. I can't imagine someone like Shudder or someone's going to snatch them up pretty quickly as like, because it's got like that gimmick thing that I think like is a big plus. But they're fun.
Yeah. I had a good time with them as like a curiosity, I would say. Yeah, I had fun with them.
Yeah.
Okay, so I want to hear about this Irish Haunted House because I missed this one.
I watched Gateway, which is an Irish horror film that I believe had its North American premiere at Chattanooga. It's directed by
that's true.
Neil Owens. And it's about a group of criminals who need to pay back their distributor. They sell weed and they need to make the money back in order not to get their ass kicked, basically. And so there's a group of them, and they all kind of like hint at trauma that they all have, and they go to this house that's an abandoned house, and they're like, this should be a squatter's paradise. Like, why aren't there a bunch of people here like squatting, doing drugs, whatever? And they slowly find out why. Boy, oh boy, it's a haunted fucking house. And it is a slow burn. It's a little hard to understand without subtitles because their accents are very thick. But it's very much Session 9 vibes in terms of a group of men going to do something and like as a group and trying to like last ditch effort, like to make money on something, and like how that all falls apart and how the location feeds on their anxieties and their traumas and what that looks like. I really enjoyed this movie. I think it's beautifully done. I think it needs subtitles, like I said, but I think there's some really interesting concepts and like things playing around here with the movie. And it's a really cool look at like suburban/urban horror, where it's like an abandoned house that like people used to do drugs in, like not a trap house, but like an old abandoned house, but like it doesn't look like a haunted house. It just looks like a regular kind of run of the mill, and there isn't really much of an explanation as to why it's happening, which is awesome. It's just like I really enjoyed it. Again, slow burn, but definitely Session 9 vibes, and I'm a huge Session 9 fan, which is why this works so well for me.
Yeah, I'm a huge Session 9 fan too. I love that movie.
So, yeah, I very, very surprisingly excited to see how good this movie was. So, that is Gateway. I have no idea when it's coming anywhere. Hopefully it does, though, because I feel like this is another movie that, like, people who love slow burns and kind of like that kind of horror will really dig it.
Yeah, I wanted to watch that one. I just didn't realize it only had a 12-hour window, and so I missed it because I couldn't watch it the night that it was playing at Chatfest. So
there's also
I'm glad it was good.
A folklore element to it that I didn't necessarily catch. Like there's symbols and stuff going on in it, and I didn't catch it the first time I watched it, so I need to watch it again. That's why it's got kill list. It's like a kill listy vibes. There's no cult or anything, but like there's some like symbolism stuff going on here as well that is really interesting. But yeah, so everyone keep your eyes out for that one because it's good. So, Bizarre Christmas. We love Bizarre Christmas. There were a lot of Christmas movies this year at Chattanooga.
There were.
Quite a few Christmas movies. It was bizarre. But anyway.
There really were. Christmas in June. Isn't it supposed to be Christmas in July?
Who cares?
What the heck? Anyway. So Eric Pennycoff is a writer and director who brought back in, I think it was 2020. Don't quote me on that, but I think that's when it was. Brought a movie called Sadistic Intentions to Chatfest, and I saw that one out of that and was like, ooh, this is kind of fun. It's quirky, it's weird. It has Jeremy Gardner in it, and I was like, I'm kind of digging this. And so then he's back here with a world debut of The Leech, which has a similar cast to Sadistic Intentions. Jeremy Gardner is back. Taylor, gosh, I'm going to mispronounce her last name, and I apologize. Zautke, I think, is maybe how you pronounce it. And then also is Graham Skipper, who, is like a indie horror icon, modern icon. He's in a lot of indie horror now. And it's kind of weird to talk about. So it's about like a priest who opens up the movie kind of preaching about the importance of doing good in society and helping other people, even if it hurts yourself, kind of being that sort of selfless person, because through selflessness, maybe someone will find God, is the idea. And right after his sermon, right after his sermon, he finds a man named Terry.
I was dying. I was like, oh, look, it's a Terry.
I'm like, Okay, Eric. I don't know what you're doing here, but okay.
Looks nothing like you. Don't worry.
No.
Nothing like our Terry.
I mean, I'm played by Jeremy Gardner.
Fair, so. But we'll get to what he's like.
But yeah, so Terry is like falling asleep in the pews, and one thing leads to another, and before you know it, this devout priest is allowing Terry to stay at his house to get him on his feet. And then the next day, Terry's pregnant girlfriend shows up. But before that even happens, like the next day he is in confessional, and some woman is in the other booth and talking about how she's pregnant and her boyfriend doesn't know, and she has like the southern drawl. And the next day, of course, then it's discovered that Lexi shows up, Terry's girlfriend, who has a southern drawl and is secretly pregnant. And then they start pushing the envelope about acceptability, and it's almost like a comedy of manners in a way.
There's so many movies this year about like people being rude and not, and like weaponized polite, or like pushing politeness and like all that stuff, which is very interesting, like that trend this year. Yeah,
there's a lot of festival films that are coming out that are doing that kind of comedy of manners and pushing it to uncomfortable places, and this takes it in some wild places.
There's a pegging scene. I just have to tell everyone there's a pegging scene. It's incredible.
There sure is.
More pegging in horror movies.
And it gets sexual, it gets weird. It's just, I think if you're a fan of Sadistic Intentions, this one will be like right up your alley in terms of the weirdness. It's just one of those films that is marching to its own drum, and I appreciate that. What did you think about this? Because you saw this one too.
I did. I like Graham Skipper is incredible. It's bananagrams basically, and I think I had a hard time with it at a point because I was just like, kick these fucking idiots out of your house. Like, I know it's a movie and the whole point, but like, Jesus. Like, and I think it goes some interesting places. Like, I have a theory about how, like, the ending and like what the whole thing represents that I won't spoil here. I think there's something really interesting going on with like religious
It's hard to talk about the
like religion and stuff, because you don't want to give anything away. But I think there's some really interesting character studies going on here. I think it's taken to like an extreme on purpose. But I think it could have, even if it wanted to lean into the extremity, I wish they'd done it a little bit more. But regardless, I think it's got such a weird fucking vibe. It's so uncomfortable. It's so weird. And I enjoyed it quite a bit. Definitely a great fucked up Christmas movie.
Yeah.
And there's rap about Jesus in it too. So
there sure is.
There sure is. And Jeremy Gardner is. I love Jeremy Gardner. He's like just incredible, and he is such an asshole in this movie. Like I wanted to punch him in the face. So congratulations, Jeremy Gardner. You did it, because I wanted to fucking punch you in the face watching this movie.
I love Jeremy Gardner. I would love to get him on the podcast to chat with him, because he is a good actor. He's a good director. He's a good writer. He's very talented.
He's really, really talented.
And I love the characters that he chooses to play in other people's stuff, because they're usually like kind of assholey, but like what I appreciate is that I don't think I've seen a character of his that's homophobic. Like and a lot of them, they're aggressively not homophobic, and they make points to like make that out. And so I think that even when he's playing a villain, there's that kind of edge to it that I appreciate in his characters. It's such a weird moment, but like I've noticed that in this movie, and I was trying to think of the other movie I saw. Is it something called Fingers or something, where he was a bad guy, but like so anti-homophobia? It just, I don't know. It's interesting, and I would love to chat with him. I just think he's...
I know. Well, and there's like some stuff here where he's like, we've all had sex with men, like very pointedly being like, who gives a shit? So yeah. It's very... And Lexi Taylor Zodke. Taylor Zodke's also incredible in this too, though. Like,
she was the star of Sadistic Intentions, and she was phenomenal in that.
So it's like mostly the three of them, and then Rigo is kind of like a guy that does the music at the church, but it's really the three of them in one location, and it's incredible, like the dynamics there. So if you like single location horror as well, like it's very much one of those. So yeah, that is Bleach. That's what I think.
Yes.
That's what I think of Bleach.
So I had COVID, so I couldn't see this movie, but I want to hear about this phone.
So I saw The Black Phone in theaters this weekend. Scott Derrickson's new horror movie with Ethan Hawke as a creepy ass serial killer who grabs and kidnaps little boys in North Denver in the 70s. And I went into this a little bit trepidatious. Like, I love Sinister. I don't dislike Scott Derrickson's movies, but I don't know. Like, I was just like, oh, who knows? Mainstream horror right now. Like, could be good, could be bad, but Ethan Hawke's in it, and he's good as shit, so, like, it's probably good. I really enjoyed it. There are a ton of plot holes in it that, like, were kind of confusing. But regardless, I really had a good time. It's a good, creepy ghost summer movie. Like, it's pretty predictable, but that's fine. I think the kids in it, Mason Thames and Madeline McGrew, who play the brother and sister.
Madeline's great.
She's incredible. So they are an incredible, like, acting duo. And Ethan Hawke's character, Jesus Christ, like, he is so creepy. Yeah. And it's just, I wanted more of him. That was, I think, my biggest thing from that. So the short story, it's much more based on John, like, the grabber is than his name. It's much more based on John Wayne Gacy.
Okay.
Serial killer.
Joe Hill.
Yeah, Joe Hill wrote the short story, Black Phone. Much more based on John Wayne Gacy. This one, they kind of remove a lot of that influence, which is interesting, and they probably for the best. And they what they do is they don't get super explicit about what happens to the boys. Like, you can kind of infer that he's a pedophile because he only takes small little boys, but, like, they don't really get into that a lot. But in the movie, Finney, played by Mason Thames, is locked in a basement of the serial killer, and there's a black phone on the wall. It's not connected, but it rings, and the people on the other end are the victims of the boys that the grabber has killed, and they're trying to help him escape. And he's the first one that's been able to hear the phone ringing, because it's kind of like his sister also has these dreams that are like premonitions. So there's kind of their mom has something like that. So there's like this kind of hinting at these kids have some kind of like psychic sensitivity. So they're able to like speak to the dead and like kind of see what's going on. So there's a lot going on, and I think it mostly works. I think there are some parts of it that it's like, this man is really nabbing children in a big black van with giant balloons in front of houses, and like no one sell anything. Like, he's wearing a fucking top hat and a cape. Like, that part I was like, I don't know about all that. I know it's the 70s. Like, I know it's the 70s, but are we that dumb? But that, like, again, it's like very much like suspending disbelief, which was fine with me. Like, I still had a really fun time with it. So and it's got some good jump scares. It's got an amazing score. And the kids are they're incredible performers. So I think it's definitely, if you're looking for like a summer movie to go see in theaters, if you're comfortable with it, I recommend it. It's a good time.
Hell yeah.
Hell yeah.
I want to go. Okay, so before we talk about Eugene Live with the Fro, you have one more.
I do have one more.
Through
Watched
Hell?
A lot of fucking movies this weekend. I watched Mad God, finally. Phil Tippett's Mad God.
Yeah.
It's on Shudder. Steve really wanted to watch it, so we watched it this weekend. And Jesus Christ. It's incredible. Have you seen it, Terry?
No, I have not.
Okay. It's incredible, but good God. Like, so much weird shit happens in that movie. It doesn't make a ton of, like, it makes sense, like, on a broader scale, because it's very much like heaven and hell battle, whatever. But it's hideously gorgeous. Like, it's this disgusting thing. There's a lot of poop in this movie, like way more poop than I expected.
I've heard that.
A lot of poop, but poop aside, it's incredibly well done. It's absolutely like just stunning to look at. Weird as hell. A lot of me was going, what in the fuck is happening? Phil Tippett is not okay, and that's fine. And it has one of the best representations of capitalism I've ever seen in a horror movie / a movie in general. It's again, like, it's a hard movie to talk about because it's an experience. Like, it's a movie you really have to experience. Yeah, the music reminded me a little bit of The Wall, like Pink Floyd's The Wall. It's a lot of it's like stop motion claymation stuff, so it's not exactly like that, but the music is a little bit like that, and it's disgusting. So watch it on Shudder because it's really fucking good.
Yeah, I know he's been wanting to make this since forever.
1997, I think.
Yeah, he's been working on this off and on for years, and you know, Phil Tippett is like a master.
Oh, he's like a god in the animation. Like, he's worked on everything.
Visual effects for Jurassic Park, for Starship Troopers, for RoboCop, for Star Wars. I believe he animated the Rancor monster.
Yeah, that would track.
Like he's done so much from Willow to Tremors 2 to like Dragonheart to like everything. He's worked on so much, and he's just a master, and I'm glad to see this got a release. I wanted to see it. I haven't had a chance yet, but yeah. I'm glad to hear that it's weird but fun.
No dialogue, so you have to pay full attention. Yeah, there's no dialogue. Don't try. Like, I kept trying to like logic my way through it. Don't even try. Like, it's not meant to be logic through. Like, at one point, there's, like, a guy, just, like, a cardinal, like a religious figure cardinal, and he has, like, super long acrylic nails and toenails. It's incredible. So, yeah, just, like, it's a movie full of really weird vibes. So, if you're looking for something, like, really weird to just, like, get sucked into, watch it on Shudder. It's an hour and 23 minutes long. There isn't, like, a really big narrative it's not really like your traditional narrative. So again, like, just vibe your way through it. There's one character in it that is the most gorgeous thing I've ever seen, and I'm obsessed with it. I think, and it's potentially, and this isn't a spoiler really, it's like his representation of what death looks like, and it's the coolest fucking thing I've ever seen. So yeah, Mad God. Guys, check it out. The hype is in fact real. It's really good.
Hell yeah.
And disgusting. So get ready. Let's talk about our latest horror comedy. Eugene Levy with a goddamn afro, a young man. I
didn't know that he ever was that young.
Neither did I. Thought he always looked the way he does now. Was incorrect. He somehow looked older in this movie to me. The hair and the mustache. I don't know, man. But what movie is this, Terry?
Okay, so we saw from 1973 Cannibal Girls, which is Ivan Reitman's sophomore feature. And Ivan Reitman, of course, would go on to do, Ghostbusters and a bunch of other stuff that I can't think of off the top of my head right now. Kindergarten Cop, Junior, Evolution, My Super Ex-Girlfriend, just a bunch of fun movies. And this movie, I wasn't prepared for how much of an exploitation drive-in type movie this actually was.
It wasn't that funny.
Oh, I thought some of it was really hysterical.
Some of it was funny, but it was much drier than I expected. Like, I thought, Ivan Reitman, I think because I was expecting like Ghostbusters kind of comedy, like very silly. This was not. I mean, it's exploitation, drier, like satirical humor more than like the comedy that we're probably more used to from Ivan Reitman.
Yeah, that's true.
That's a better way to put it. It was like not what I expected from an Ivan Reitman movie, which is not a bad thing, but it definitely like don't go in expecting like a Ghostbusters or any of his like more well-known titles, because it's very different.
There was some really funny visual gags. There's a gag of, and I can't remember exactly the context behind it, but a woman is shaving a carrot that looks like a penis.
It's like right after they kill somebody.
Yeah.
It's literally like they kill a man, and then they walk into, and like it cuts to her in the kitchen just fucking peeling a carrot and looking at it like it's a dick.
And there's moments like that. Like there's Eugene Levy plays a character named Cliff who plays a guitar, and he has a cigarette pinned to one of the the strings that are a little too long and they're just hanging off the end of the guitar. He has like a cigarette pinned to that. Just like there's little moments like that. The fact that people are growing grapes on the graves of their grandfather, and they're trying to leave. Okay, so the idea is that Cliff, played by Eugene Levy, and Gloria, played by Andrea Martin, have been dating for I think a couple months at this point, and they go on a trip. They go to this, you know, little small town, and they stay at this bed and breakfast, and they hear the story about this house where like that used to have 3 cannibal women in it, and they're like intrigued by the story, so they go there. The house is being run by a reverend who is incredibly odd and weird and wants them to stay, and they keep trying to think of ways to leave, and they go to dinner, and he ends up offering them like a bed, and he's like, this belonged to his aunt who was burned at the stake. Oh well, good night. And then he says, good night, Aunt Patricia. Like, there's just like moments like this that are really, really kind of funny.
My favorite was when the cop like takes him back and is like, don't let me see you out again, and cocks his rifle like they shouldn't be out in the streets. I was like, what in the hell? And like, I get some Rocky Horror Picture Show vibes, but this is pre-Rocky Horror, which is fascinating. I won't spoil too much, but I wonder, did you also get like kind of Rocky Horror vibes from this? Okay. But these bitches are cannibals and I love them.
Same.
I want more meat. She said at one point, like at one point.
Yeah.
Oh, they're incredible.
And they're like a coven, and they're trying to like increase their numbers. And I'm just like, yes, more women eating men.
Yeah.
Eat the patriarchy, one man at a time.
Surprisingly progressive with how these women are just like killing dudes, like having sex with them and like luring them in, but like not like they're bad guys, but it's not like, oh, they're diabolically evil. Like it's framed in a way that it's an exploitation movie, but it's not as exploitative as the typical exploitation movie. No. Which is so really fascinating to see from Ivan Reitman in 1973. I was like, oh, surprisingly progressive and fascinating with this treatment of women as killers. And like the men are idiots. Like the whole movie, all of the guys are absolute morons, including Eugene Levy. Very much like don't take women seriously, and these women like get like take advantage of that. And I think it's really like how these women kind of play up like, oh, I'm just the pretty girl, like I just want to hang out with you, and then they slaughter them, and it's incredible. And I think they really play with that in a really, again, a progressive way, especially in 1973.
Yeah, and most of the dialogue was improvised. The budget was like $9,000. Yeah. It was the film debut for Andrea Martin. Ivan Reitman took this film to Spain's International Horror Festival, and Eugene Levy ended up winning Best Actor, and Andrea Martin ended up winning Best Actress award at this festival. Like, this movie had surprising legs to it, and I think I agree. I don't think the humor is quite as like developed as it was as it would be in his later films, but I don't know. I found it quite enjoyable and leaning into the horror.
I was gonna say it's much more like a horror movie. Like it's much. It's more horror than comedy, I think. I think there are some great funny parts, but I think it really does lean into the horror more than I expected.
Which is interesting because like. I was thinking about most of the movies that we've seen, with the exception of The Old Dark House. Most of them lean hard into the comedy side with a tinge of the horror aspect to it. But this one and like Old Dark House have lean further into the horror. And I think it's an interesting balancing act. Yeah. I do too. I just think it's an interesting balancing act that I'm curious to see as we progress the way that people are able to like, is this a horror comedy or is this a comedy with horror elements? Yeah. Like those kind of things.
It is really interesting to see, like, it feels like it's quite difficult to do like a 50-50 split. The more I'm watching these, like 50-50 splits aren't really a thing with horror comedy, which is fine. It's just interesting to see like how things lean and what directors and writers take from each genre in their movie, which has been really fascinating to see, like what horror comedy means to people too, because I think it really does. Yeah. More than anything, like of these like sub-genre deep dives we've been doing, I think this one to me is one of the more like diverse ones in terms of like interpretation, because there's so many different ways that you can go there. Like, you know, obviously like giallo and folk horror, like there's a lot going on, but like, you know, a lot of them do follow pretty similar beats. And I feel like horror comedy just is a lot more, because horror comedy isn't as, I think, defined aesthetically and like subject matter wise. There's so much more room to play with that stuff, which is interesting.
Yeah. And I mean, I think there's also different, for a subgenre, there's different subgenres underneath it, because you can have parodies and spoofs, and you can have like dark comedies, so there's like, even within that subgenre, I feel that there's like a robust amount of differentiating factors and changes that happen that can make a movie feel completely different. And I think that's interesting. Yeah.
So that's been really cool. And I think that really like hit me with this one specifically, where I'm like, my expectations were it did not surpass, like subverted my expectations in a really interesting way. And, like, the more I think about it, the more I did really enjoy the movie.
I like this one a lot.
Once I was like, okay, wait, this is not the movie I thought it was going to be, which is totally fine.
Right.
Like, let me just, like, recalibrate my brain. And then, So.
Well, you think of Ivan Reitman and you think of Ghostbusters and that kind of stuff. And
like,
it's
silly.
It's definitely, like, an aesthetic and a silliness to it that is definitely missing from this one.
Like, not slapsticky. Like, I don't think of Ivan Reitman as necessarily totally slapstick, but, like, there's a lot of, like, physical gags in his movies. And this one is just very different. Yeah. But it's really cool to see his range as a director.
Yeah.
Cool pick, Terry. Good find. Like,
I'm glad to finally watch it. Because, again, this movie shows up in, I think it's Ghostbusters 2 in a scene. Like, there's a theater scene.
Yeah.
And then it appears again in Afterlife. So, like, this is a movie that, like, has been in the back of my mind for forever since I, like, saw originally. And I never knew what it was until more recently. And then, like, I got to watch that one. So I'm glad we finally...
It's streaming for free on Shout Factory TV for anyone who wants to watch it. I didn't even log into an account, so you can just go watch it there. Definitely thought that the audio was fucked up because the beginning is like quiet for like 30 seconds, and I was like, is something broken? So don't worry, everybody. If you watch it, it's not broken. It's the movie.
Don't change the sound settings on your TV.
Because I fucked with it for a bit. I'm like, are my headphones fucked up? And like, yes, I could have skipped ahead, but I was like, there's no way. No, it's just quiet at the beginning. So, little disclaimer for all of you. Shifting gears into horror comedy from Japan next week. Terry, what movie are we talking about next week? Ow.
We are talking about 1977's Hausu. Love this movie. It got recently brought up when we were recording with Ken Tucker and Albert.
Podcast brain. Me being like, that was like last week. I don't know.
The only reason I know is I edited it. That's the only reason I remember.
Wild fucking... I've actually never seen this all the way through.
I've only seen it once.
So I'm very excited.
It's a trip.
I'm so excited.
Psychedelic trip.
And there's cats.
Okay, but who are we talking? Yes, with cats. Big orange cat on the front cover. But who are we chatting with on Monday, Mary Beth?
So on Monday, we are chatting with writer and editor Danny Bethea. You've probably seen their writing all over the internet because they are incredible. And we are chatting about Who Framed Roger.
We sure are. Finally, this movie has been brought to us. I get to tell my story about being terrified by it.
And it was, again, my first time watching it all the way through. It holds up, everybody. We'll talk about it, but just as in case you're preparing, it holds the fuck up.
It's so good.
Fucking impressive. And Bob Hoskins is everything. R.I.P. to a legend.
R.I.P. Please, Eddie.
Oh my god, it's just so good. So that is very exciting. I hope everyone enjoyed our video content. Let us know if you want more of it. It's been fun, and you get to see all the bullshit I deal with my cats, and also my weird hand movements that you never see, and now you can understand how I just wiggle my arms the whole podcast.
And I noticed that I have a tendency of like sitting here with my arm like kind of weirdly propped up in my chair. It's mostly because I feel I click my mouse too much, and I kept thinking about how I have to edit out the mouse clicks because I just go click, 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 click. And so if I sit here like this, I'm not clicking it.
And all of me looking over to the side is making sure my cats aren't fucking with anything. I keep looking over to the side, and I'm like distracted just to make sure the cats aren't like eating a plant or knocking something over. But anyway, let us know what you think about the chaos. It's fun chaos. But anyway, guys, you've heard from us. We want to hear from you. Did you do Chattanooga and have a movie that you really liked that we didn't talk about? Do you have suggestions for more horror comedies? Do you have suggestions for videos? Send us an email at scarredforlifepodcast@gmail.com. or you can reach out to us directly on Twitter. I am at MBMcAndrews.
And I'm a Gaily Dreadful.
And of course, follow the podcast on Twitter at Scarred Podcast.
And please don't forget to review, rate, and subscribe. And if you're watching this video, then please give us a like on YouTube and subscribe there too.
Thank you to Eric Power for our artwork. Thank you to Sean Keller for our music. And thank you everyone for listening. Please stay safe out there. Be kind to each other. But most importantly, stay creepy.
And until next time.
ACAST powers the world's best podcasts. Here's a show that we recommend.
What is The Briefing Room?
It's a behind-the-scenes look at how the criminal justice system works and the lives of the people within that system.
If you love true crime, well, these are the real people who do the job every day of making sure justice is served.
Hi, I'm Detective Dave.
I'm Detective Dan. Together, we have decades of experience in local law enforcement, a profession that we think is often misunderstood.
So we're going to explore how to do it right, and we won't shy away from when it's done wrong. These are stories you'll hear nowhere else. Unique, frank, and unvarnished.
From the team that brought you Small Town Dicks, this is The Briefing Room. Episode 1 drops on August 30th. We'll meet you in the briefing room.
ACAST helps creators launch, grow, and monetize their podcasts everywhere. Acast.com.